Okay, so in 7.5 we introduced what's called the matrix, not the movie, but a matrix is just an array of numbers, but they don't have to be numbers. They could be expressions or variables or other things that you're representing. So I'll just give you an example of an array. It probably won't be very creative. So this would be an example of an array. I don't even have it written really great. I'm using square brackets. For a matrix, at this point, that's what we use, square brackets. Later on, if you do a lot of work with matrices, the plural of matrix is matrices. So you have, this is how you spell matrices. You have one matrix, but many matrices. If you go on and do a lot of work with those, they change notations. Sometimes they have different ways of putting things. But each one of these numbers is an entry, or sometimes I'll refer to it as an element. So in this case, I have a matrix that has the elements or entries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? A matrix is given in columns and rows. So columns go this way. Those are columns. And then these are rows. So this matrix that I have here has, usually you put the rows first. So it's 3 rows and 2 columns. And those are called the dimensions of the matrix, okay? So in our little matrix here, we have 3 rows, 2 columns. So it's said to be a 3 by 2 matrix. And that's usually how they write it, 3 by 2, kind of like, a 2 by 4, when you're doing wood and stuff. This would be a 3 by 2 matrix. And then if they asked you how many entries, ours has 6 entries. Okay? So let's do another example. So let's say we have a matrix. This would be a 1 by 4 matrix. And a lot of times they'll label a matrix with a capital letter. So that's pretty customary. So A is a 1 by 4 matrix. And so that's the number of rows, 1 row, and then 4 columns. And then I could have matrix B. This would be a 4 by 1 matrix, because I've got 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 column. So it would be a 4 by 1 matrix. Finally, a square matrix, the number of rows is the same as the number of columns. So, So a lot of times we'll see this kind of matrix. This would be a 2 by 2 matrix. And another common one that we'll see that would be a 3 by 3 matrix. Now for what we're going to be working with, we'll mostly see 2 by 2s and 3 by 3s. We might see some 1 by 3s or 3 by 1s, some that aren't square. But we're not going to get into really large matrices. They're really hard to do by hand. If you were to go on and study linear algebra, that's what we're introducing here is the study of linear algebra, which is a class we do offer at CMC. Then you would work with larger matrices, and eventually they go and get a computer to do the calculations and stuff for us. But that's just a start then, a little bit about matrices, and we're going to learn a little more about matrices in this section.